Age 75 seems to me the future, which is not just around the corner, but somewhere close. And then maybe 80. No need to say, but what about the state? The state has nothing to do with it. That is, it is a big misconception that your pension is paid by some state. The state is not the Lord God, it is just a certain structure here. And those who are now, let's say, 70 or 75 years old are paid pensions by, well, people like me or like my colleagues. They are, for the most part, well, some were somewhat younger and other people of active working age. Unfortunately, there are not as many of us as well the motherland would like. Now, if there were twice as many of us, for example, then there would be enough for your pension, not even from 65, but still from 60 years old. And they would even raise pensions much more often, well, at least within the limits of how utility bills are indexed. But there is no such opportunity because the share of the working age population is thinning literally before our eyes.
What is it? What's the problem? What's happened? Why is the share of the working age population suddenly thinning before our eyes? You don't connect this in any way with an invasion of a foreign country by chance, no? Today our guest is Sergey. The YouTube channel, if anyone suddenly, purely by chance, doesn't know, is called Free Men. So, subscribe. We have an interactive link to this channel right in the title. Sergey, good afternoon. Can you hear us? Apparently everything is fine?
Yes. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Greetings, everyone.
Sergey is engaged in the fact that the communicates on YouTube. Sergey himself, well, as far as I understand, is Russian, and he communicates with other Russians on YouTube. And here I would first of all like to ask, Sergey, are you trolling? Is this a show? Is this an attempt to persuade, or maybe an attempt to enlightenment? How do you explain to yourself the nature of your activities on YouTube?
No, I am not going to enlighten anyone. I'm just showing these people how insignificant they are, everyone who is for Putin, for this war. How objectively stupid they are, how superficially knowledgeable they are. I need to make fun of them, I need to humiliate them, and I don't pursue any other goals. The only goal is that we are looking for our supporters who believe that the Putin regime is criminal, that this war is criminal, and the fact that everyone who supports it are simply either scum or fools. That's it, that's our goal. Simply everyone is in the information world, everyone has the internet, and there has been a war for 3 years. There is no point in explaining anything to anyone. We realized this a long time ago. What kind of education are they doing? Our liberal opposition likes to refer to the fact that they are engaged in some kind of education. Whoever you want to enlighten, everyone has already been enlightened a long time ago. Everyone who is not with us is against us. The only thing I say again, we are looking for our comrades in arms, we are looking for our supporters, and we tell everyone that power in Russia can only be changed by armed means. And there are no longer any other ways to change power other than a military coup. That's it. That's our whole goal. And contents is show to show people how much zombies are washed up by propaganda. I even call these shows, I used to call them Putin's ghouls. YouTube doesn't like the word ghouls and bans me, but I changed it to primates, and now it's called Putin's primates. Everyone sees how stupid these people are. Worthless, let's say, so all I want is to ridicule and humiliate them.
And you say we, do you already have some kind of organization? Is it an association of people, or you just summarize?
No, of course we have an organization.
What's it called?
I won't talk so as not to expose myself to criminal charges. You by yourself understand that.
Understood. Well, in advance we didn't agree what to talk about and what not to talk about, so it's inappropriate then, of course.
Well, yes,
it's
I
not
just
necessary.
don't want to hang any specific articles on myself that I am a member of a terrorist organization.
Yes, I see.
So all the people who know, they are aware.
Well, then let's talk about the patients. So let's start perhaps with a Russian woman. You had an interesting episode, let's watch it.
You support Putin. Your husband also support Putin. Why is he still not mobilized and not dying for Putin's ass?
And he hasn't been called up yet.
I will be called, I will go, I don't deny
Let
it.
him go voluntarily.
We wait. We will have a second mobilization.
Would
We
you
will
like,
be at war.
Would you like to receive 4 millions in a black bag?
Yes, I want. I say I want. I tell you, I steal.
Listen, husband, she wants to send you there to get 4 millions.
Yes, I'm not hiding it. He's aware, but I will buy a car for myself. I will drive and remember him.
Well, to be honest, I had hundreds of similar mothers, wives, those mobilized who were captured. I'm, if anyone doesn't know, also communicated closely with them for some time. The two are generally interested primarily in money. Further, we have statistics that after the increase in payments for signing a contract, the following request in Yandex increased. How to send your husband to SMO, they are looking for Google or Yandex, and not only yours, but how to send your ex to SMO. What can you say about Russian women? What is this connected with in general? This is inhumanity of theirs is such that they think only about money, in fact.
No, well, this is a certain type of people who are at the lowest stage of development. They exist probably in every society. In Russia, I think that 30% of the population lives and thinks in precisely this system of principles. Well, these are kettles, these are people who... You by yourself, Vladimir, communicated with them a lot and you understand how they present themselves. Man or woman, their thinking in this layer is the same. Putin raised Russia from its knees so much that there are a very large number of poor people in Russia. Therefore, whether a woman or a man, there is not much difference. The thinking is the same. So this doesn't surprise me at all. Money, well, in general, women are interested in money. This is natural, but the fact that they are ready to sell their husband there. These are heavy drinkers, losers who probably beat them from time to time. Just like mothers send their sons to drug addicts and alcoholics. So at least he will bring them some money home. We understand very well what strata of society these people who are going to war come from. Typically, losers who cannot realize themselves in civilian life. There he will at least send her some money, or they will send her money for him, for his corpse. This is very revealing. This, by the way, is the reason why I started trolling in chat roulette. But simply, these people... They bathe in it. They have no principles. These are simply dysfunctional families. What's on their tongue is the same on their head.
What's in the head is on the tongue.
Yes. Plus or minus back and forth. Therefore, this is kettles. This is kettles, and women are the same, and men are the same. She doesn't respect her man, she considers him shit, who is going to this war. These are people who have been considered shit since childhood. So he was born as a child, his teacher considered him a stupid piece of shit. At school, his teachers considered him a clueless piece of shit. They treated him like trash. In army, the commander and the chief treated him this way, and his whole life is like this. It's natural for him. And what wives need too. Are these kettles stupid and drunk? No need. She will find herself another drunk kettle. And this one will send her money. That's all. Everything is extremely simple there. These are people who have a horizon of thoughts only for today. They do not see further than their one step. And therefore they want to enjoy life, hoping to get happiness from money. But this won't happen. All money is bloody and it will never bring happiness.
Undoubtedly. Yes, I talk to them a lot. But my, so to speak, patients are those who have already mobilized or have already signed a contract. In general, they went to war. And there it doesn't matter that they understood something there or didn't understand, that is, they have already committed this act. But you communicate with people often who are still thinking to go to war or not. Either, how often do you come across promising people among them, which still somewhere they, let's say, have doubts? Yes, they doubt whether to fight or not. Are there a lot of doubters?
Well, look, Vladimir, firstly, chat roulette is such a specific thing. It's like your prisoners. A certain group of people ends up there. Few special forces are even captured by you. All thought in the Russian army as special forces and people who know how to fight. In chat roulette, it's the same thing, plus or minus. There are mostly cattle there. There are no people with intelligence. Firstly, it is unsafe for people who are against Putin to enter the chat roulette. Consequently, it's mostly cattle who are tearing their shirts off and are ready to go somewhere. But often they are just armchair troops. They believe that now it is safe to support Putin, it is safe to support this war, and so on, so on. They are stupid people with superficial knowledge. Dumb. They hope, they think that clinging to the pack, to the FSB, to Putin, to this regime, they think that this is a strong pack. But they are not a flock, but a stupid herd who are driven like sheep to slaughter in Ukraine. They die there ingloriously like mongrels. These armchair troops who sit in the roulette chat are from the same cohort, but often they will not go anywhere. I say that in Russia, this is about 30% of the population who are in this coordinate system. Many from a conclusion based on the roulette chat and based on your prisoners, they think that everyone in Russia is for this war. But only cattle sit in the roulette chat, which is no more than 30% of the population. Not everyone is for war, just most people are scared and they are hostages in Russia. I don't justify them. You don't need to think that I am justify them now. They are simply in their petty bourgeois happiness, trying to live, pay off loans, and ignore the war. But there is also an aggressive mass, about 30% of the population. But I want to emphasize that these 30% are more than the entire population of Ukraine. But these 30% who support war under any conditions, they are supporters of this war or even participants. Well, if we believe that about 8 million citizens of the Russian Federation are participating in the war against Ukraine. These are military personnel, all their families, officials, recruits, and the military-industrial complex. That is about only 5-7% of the population, but this does not mean that the rest of the population is clean. The Russians will pay for this silence, for this shed blood. This is still just the beginning. We have brought great destruction and misfortune to Ukraine, and the Russians will pay for it. There are so-called unwritten laws of the universe. Therefore, everything we see, unfortunately, is just the beginning. And as they say, flowers, everything will be ahead. But the population is basically simply afraid. They live, I can't tell you for the entire population, but let's say I can tell you for Moscow. This, is like the attitude towards some football match as if the World Cup is happening. And people who are not passionate about football, they begin to follow this team, root for this team, call it ours. And this plus or minus is how most people see the war, especially the urban population. There are regions more affected by this war, but the urban population is often smaller because there are few relatives who are fighting from the urban population. And they look at it like football. Even those who are against the war, even those who are against the regime, they call the Russian troops ours. We, for our part, do not consider them ours. We believe that these are scum, these are freaks who went to kill people for money, for some unknown reason to a foreign country.
They went not only to kill, but also die themselves.
Yeah, they went, they say, to earn money, and many died there. They do not die. Ukrainian soldiers who defend their homeland die. On foreign land, you can only die ingloriously. And they are not ours at all. They will become ours when they go to the Kremlin with us. In the meantime, these are just scum who commanders treat like meat, like minced meat. You see this very well and know what attitude the Russian army has towards military personnel. Putin considered them shit, their commanders consider them shit. They themselves behave like sad shit, dying limply on a foreign land, no one knows why. And when they go with us to the Kremlin, they will go for their future, for the future of their children. And then they will receive everything, power and real money. For now, they are just sad scum.
Well, first of all, regarding football, it's interesting. Russia is not allowed anywhere now, and Russia does not enter the same Olympics under its own flags, or enters without flags at all, or they are not allowed to open at all. They all called Ukraine a country of 404, but as a result, it turned out that they themselves became a country of 404. Because, excuse me, it is country 404 that comes out without the flags of its country, or with the flags of some unspecified country. As for football, I sometimes watch it, I just don't remember now. They play friendly matches with some teams from some countries whose names I'm even hearing for the first time. And they are very proud of the fact that they won, for example, with a score of 11-0. In general, I think that the Russian team will soon participate in the World Championships. There will be two teams playing at the World Cup, Russia and North Korea. And what's more, these two teams will reach the final and both will win. That is, for the Russian media, Russia will win, but for North Korean, DPRK. This is the World Championship they will have soon. I think that this simply won't be long now. How much longer do you think? Repress Russians. Is there some line beyond which they will stop and say that this is too much? Or it's turning into North Korea turning their way?
Look, regarding football, this is another sign of how Putin raised Russia from its knees. Previously, when I just went to chat roulette to chat with people, even before the war, it was not public. People basically said, well, in the international arena, realizing that Russia, a technologically backward country, is poor, often with a poor population, especially in the regions. They say that Russia was on the international stage and Putin did something there. By the way, this is such a vivid example of what he did. In reality, it is such a shame that athletes of the Russian Federation cannot participate under their own flag. But this is such a remark. Regarding North Korea, I don't think everything will go in the direction of North Korea for one simple reason, because North Korea has at least some kind of ideology. Yes, because here Putin does not have it. There is absolutely no ideology. What ideology? Steal everything for the euro from your people and go to conquer your neighbors in fucking Soviet tanks. But this is bullshit, not ideology. And the fact that the nuts will be tightened is yes. The fact that Russian people are unlikely to rebel, I mean city dwellers. It is very unlikely that anything could happen. Russia is concentration camp. And everyone who is in it are practically prisoners who do not have any particular rights. In Russia, a change of power is possible only by force. I already talked about this, and only armed people can change this. You asked me a question about streaming in chat roulette. We are campaigning among pensionaries, those people who are ready to take power from Putin with arms in hand. There aren't many of them, about 5%, I think. But it's not that I think so, it's statistics. Every nation has 5-7% pensionaries. We count on them, we conduct agitation and propaganda among them. The rest don't interest us much. We understand perfectly well what they are capable of. The maximum they can do is write a post on social networks, that's all. Therefore, we are only interested in armed people, and we are interested in, as they say, partisans. We are interested in people who will not be afraid to die and kill for power. We have all, as they say, hope and calculation on them. And everyone else will be observed as they are now. All these attempts by the liberal community to carry out education and rallies are all unnecessary. These are harmless people, oppositionists, so-called, who will lead nowhere. We have already seen what these protests lead to. They always called people like us provocators. When we called one people to take direct action to revolution, they say that we were provocators and that a lot of people would suffer. And in fact, with now there are hundreds of thousands killed and maybe already millions.
It'd definitely be about 1 million, yes.
Yes, thanks to these sections. They did not want 2,000 Muscovites to suffer, yes? Now everything has turned out that a bloody war has begun, and the end of this war is not visible. Therefore, hoping for some kind of general rally is nonsense. Too much blood has been spilled. Putin will never avoid any rallies. This is all nonsense. If he needs to, they will shoot this entire crowd. They will come with a car, wash the paving stones, wash the asphalt, and say that 3 people died and everything is fine. Yes?
By the way, I don't think that will be need to shoot anyone or even disperse them with water cannons. I have the impression that these rallies where they light lanterns for something or launch some balloons into the sky and do nothing else. These rallies are even beneficial to Putin. This creates the illusion that there is some kind of protest opinion and it is allowed. That is, people in power, they understand perfectly well that these rallies will go nowhere further. They went out, shone flashlights and launched balloons. That's it. Why speed them up?
I agree with you. Of course, this was like this before the war. Now they believe that it is not profitable for the regime to show so many people in Russia after the war. They tightened those knots easily. This entire position played games according to the FSB rules. When these liberals took people out, they trained them to obey. The entire protest mass is betrayed. All the people who protested at these events became obedient because they were taught not to resist the police, to get into petty wagons, and so on and so forth. The police trained on them, wringing their hands. Ultimately, we will see that there is no protest at all. All these impulses have led to the fact that there is no protest in Russia. They simply made protest impossible. Therefore, we believe that we need to act radically. We call on everyone to take direct action to a partisan movement. We're undergoing Operation Primus, Operation Love Honey, so Love Chill is now beginning. Any help, any action is important. We encourage everyone. The only thing we ask is not to look for your comrades on the internet, otherwise you will find FSB officer there. Go it alone, adrenaline will propel you. He will move you to take more serious steps. Don't act for money. act from your heart and you will succeed.
In the last conversation, I noted the thing. They speak honestly about how poorly their management treated them, that they did not imagine this war as it is. About losses, about the corpses of their soldiers in the fields, about the lack of provisions and lack of help. In general, they honestly talk about all the horrors of this war that they saw on their own, honestly. They tell it honestly like it is. They also say that everything is bad in Russia as it is. And so when you ask them a question, what do you think about Putin? Then the entire structure of the previous conversation is washed away. That is, they are absolutely illogical. They are like a herd, like representatives of a herd. They just run around like lambs. But they absolutely do not understand who controls this herd and why they are actually slaughtered from time to time. They refuse to blame Putin for their problems. Can this phenomenon, from the point of view of a Russian, somehow be explained?
Well, I'm saying that over these 25 years, Putin has become a kind of publicized person. He has become a cult figure. You remember, even in the army, portraits of Putin hung everywhere. He was considered commander-in-chief, that the will of the commander-in-chief is the law. All in Russia, as in the 30s, there are no laws, no constitution, only the will of Führer exists. This is what the Nazis said in the 30s. The same thing is happening now in the Russian Federation. Therefore, when my comrades and I say that the elimination of Putin will lead to the collapse of the Putin's regime and most likely to the collapse of Russia and the victory of Ukraine, many say that nothing will change. Absolutely everything will change, because no one has such imaginary authority as Putin. Yes, he is hyped, but for these noobs, he really looks scary. That is, this cockroach is well publicized. It inspires fear in the average Russian person. You need to understand, Russia is a territory of lies and fear. Society is ruled by fear. It is Putin and the FSB who are at the head of this. Therefore, if in the 30s there is a so-called 1937 syndrome in the Russian Federation, more precisely in Russian society, you need to understand, if in the 30s Stalin had to shoot tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, or to put people in concentration camps in order to intimidate society, so that society would submit and meekly fulfill all the demands of the Communist Party and ideology. But now it's enough, since there is an information world, it's enough to shoot Nemtsov, let Navalny rot in prison, and kill Tesak in prison. Or make a few videos of how they were detained, how they wrote reposts and posts on Vkontakte, and that's it. Society is quiet. It's intimidating. That's enough. There is no need for mass repression. There is no need for mass executions, black petty wagons in country yards. This is not needed. But I want to repeat once again, Putin is a non-entity. He is promoting product the same as the FSB is promoting product. We can clearly see that there is a war going on and how the SBU defeats the FSB when these two structures collide. I saw the SBU and the FSB have disproportionate financial resources. The FSB is losing and everyone sees it. The only thing I want to tell you all at once, the entire Ukrainian society, I understand Putin's psychotype and the psychotype of their ideology. And the FSB is 100% engaged in working on a program to eliminate your leaders, and most likely it is aimed at Zelensky. So you should know and think about it.
Agreed.
Yes, I think, as they say, first of all, and take reciprocal steps. That if there is no need to wait, there is no need to wait. Because I noted that Putin often has an effect on people, I don't know how to say it, like hypnosis or something. Let us remember Khodorkovsky, who began to be criminally prosecuted, and he said if they want to imprison him, let them imprison him, that he will not leave. Nemtsov was warned several times. He did not leave the country, he was killed. For some reason, Navalny returned, knowing that he had already tried to kill him once. He was killed. Prigozhin is the same. I don't know how much he understood what kind of scum he was dealing with, and even then he believed Putin. Zelensky has repeatedly claimed that an assassination attempt was being prepared on him. I don't know whether an assassination attempt was being prepared on him or not.
Absolutely confirm that, there are detainees who are from the State Security Service. There are detainees who, yes, are really accused of preparing an assassination attempt on Zelensky. That is, this is done at different levels.
Moreover, I would like to ask, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Are you expecting another assassination attempt? Well, then we will make an attempt. Putin is clearly an open criminal, a hardened, incorrigible master terrorist. You Ukrainians had some kind of fetish, I don't know what to call it, a fetish for counting killed Russians. Russians, you will count the dead for another 10 years. Putin will collect them from all over the Russia, produce these poor, stupid, destitute people whom he will collect from Russia and from all over and send to your land. The main scoundrel must be killed. Do you understand? The main
Regarding
thing.
Zelensky, I didn't really understand the message. What should we do then? Does he need to leave?
No, he has the resources of the state, he has the special services. Then what should you do if they act against you? Well, for example, let's not talk about Zelensky. Let's return to the story of Alexei Navalny.
No, this is how enemies and traitors are destroyed in Russia from time to time. Traitors like Kiev or enemies like... what is the name of this military officer who was given the statuette? Well, are they working in this direction? That's not to say
No,
they
that's all
don't
right.
work.
That's all correct. I want to tell you again that Putin is targeting Zelensky. Do you understand?
Yes,
And
unconditionally.
Zelensky needs to target Putin specifically. Not a single state, with the exception of the Russian partisans, is engaged in eliminating Putin or dealing with this issue. And unfortunately, apparently, the Ukrainian state is not doing this either. While this bastard sits in the Kremlin, while this antichrist, this cannibal sits in Kremlin, blood will flow like a river. Everyone should understand this. And for the purpose of self-defense, every Russian who has an opinion that different from the opinion of Putin from this government must exercise the right of necessary self-defense. Because he wants to see people like me, people who are on the defensive, or rather in opposition, one might say, to the Putin regime, in the dump earth. And we must make sure that these bastards end up in the dump earth before we do. And we need to think in this direction. Otherwise something terrible could happen. Because I know that Zelensky's popularity and everything else are falling. But if we imagine what, God forbid, will happen to Zelensky, think about what will happen next to Ukraine. What kind of government will be legitimate, who will be able to unite the nation, who will be able to defeat this regime. Therefore, we need to do this. Of course, I'm not calling on any Ukrainians. I call, first of all, on my fellow citizens of the Russian Federation. But Ukraine... You have to understand, as long as Putin is alive, Putin will kill Ukrainians. This is clear. Putin needs all of Ukraine. He needs to enslave Ukraine. He needs Ukrainians who are on their knees. He hates you with passion. If he despises Russians, he hates Ukrainians. They humiliated him, showing that he in fact is no one. Putin at one time was nobody and nothing. Then he became such a king of horror that everyone began to fear him, and so on. And the Ukrainians dispelled this myth. They showed that he is a non-entity. His army is not combat ready and cannot carry out its combat mission. And the Ukrainians humiliated him. He remembered his youth. He remembered his adult life, how he was humiliated for all this life. He is driven by complexes. That's why he won't rest until he will fight with Ukraine as long as he is alive. Every Ukrainian should understand this. Therefore, the problem must be solved. Don't engage in the process. I've been in business all my life. When problems arose, I suggested to people who this problem could be solved. Ukrainians, when they attacked Ukraine, they decided to kill Russian soldiers. It must be a good, interesting activity to kill Russians, only if the Ukrainians did not die themselves. This doesn't solve the problem. The problem is not solved by the murder of, Dugina's daughter, Kiva, and everyone else. Yet this enemy
They most likely killed Dugin's daughter themselves. Well, I just talked with one of those who was involved in this case. He also ended up in the SMO, and then he was also captured. One of my last interviews, his last name is Suchkov. Most likely he was cheated by the FSB. True is not very clear for what purpose. They most likely wanted to make her a sacred victim, but they worked so stupidly and rudely that it didn't work out. But that's okay, it's not all that important. I understood the message. If you read between the lines correctly, this conversation is not entirely public.
I went on air and expressed my thoughts. Possibly yes, perhaps so. But simply all this is wonderful. I think they understand. The main thing is that political will is needed. We need political will because Western intelligence services, I think, have such capabilities, but they are not doing this. And if you look for part of the state, for example, no state helps us. And on the part of Ukraine, the Ukrainian state, there is a complete moral right to destroy its enemies. Death to enemies. Yes, you have, I think. Glory to the nation, death to the enemies.
Glory to Ukraine, glory to the nation, glory to the heroes. And death to enemies, yes. I wanted to say 2 words. We have 4 minutes left. If I understand everything correctly by a prior arrangement, I wanted to say a few words. There was a remark about this collective responsibility that all Ukrainians believe that all Russians are bad. You know, different Ukrainians think differently. But the opinion and idea that all Ukrainians, of course, want the death of all Russians, most likely was born in Russian propaganda, as it seems to me. And it seems to me it is this idea that is most beneficial to Russian propaganda. Even Skabeva and Simonyan from time to time run out their resources and say that Russia must win, otherwise they will come and kill every teacher, every janitor, and every plumber. So I would like to convey one very simple idea. This benefits only Russian propaganda, because Ukrainians in general are not going to kill any janitors, plumbers, or teachers if these people did not participate in the murder of Ukrainians. And since Skabeva and Simonyan need to mobilize the janitor, teacher, and plumber, and all other average Russians, they will say this, and they will convince them that they are the ones in mortal danger. Also, the danger threatens only the Skabevas, the Simonyans, all employees, Russian propaganda employees, FSB employees. It's all the same thing, I think. Well, first of all to Putin, of course, and to those around him.
Well, I agree with you. This is beneficial for the FSB. It is beneficial for the authorities. It is beneficial, as they say, to throw all Russians into one district to Putin. And the Ukrainians, as they say, go to this emotionally too. Even if they think so, we must act, as they say, coolly and rationally. We need to look for people loyal to Ukraine. We need to help them, and so on and so on. Any Russian who will fight with Putin will need to attract one less Ukrainian. It is only for this that we need to act in this direction. As long as Ukraine is united, Putin does not have a single chance to defeat Ukraine, not a single chance. Good luck to you. Peace, glory to Ukraine.
Glory to heroes. Thanks a lot. And be
to you.
healthy. In touch.